Hello, Brad here, just to say we're super proud that the Friday 5pm podcast is sponsored by the Malt Miller, the UK's best home brew store.
We use the Malt Miller for all of our homebrew experiments, as well as tapping them up for advice and binging on their awesome YouTube channel all the time.
That's why whenever we release a homebrew video, we put a recipe kit live on the Malt Miller, so you can brew with the exact same amazing ingredients that we did. The same ingredients used by pro brewers.
So alongside the Malt Miller's nitro-flushed hops, cold-stored yeast and milled-to-order malts, you can pick up recipe kits for our 5 Points Best Bitter, Russian River West Coast IPA, and now the fastest beer in the world, a hazy session IPA that goes from grain to glass in less than 48 hours.
Sign up to their newsletter at tinyurl.com/Malt Miller to get 5% off your first order. With the Malt Miller's amazing customer service and Johnny's 48-hour recipe, you could order the ingredients on a Monday and be drinking the beer by the weekend.
Speaking of which, it's Friday.
It's 5pm.
So enjoy this week's Friday 5pm podcast. It's Friday, it's 5pm, and I have been struggling for a witty intro to this week because I have spent the last 2 days trying to edit that West Veteran article that I talked about briefly in this week's episode down from, it was at 5,700 words. I'm supposed to get it down to 4,000, Bradley. That's like 1 in every 3 words.
Damn, that's a lot of words. Maybe you could use the words you take out to write something else. Or maybe you could get, you used to talk about if you had a room full of apes with typewriters, they'd write Shakespeare in 100 years or whatever.
He's saying I need a monkey editor.
Well, we don't need that anymore. We've got AI now. So all those monkeys that were in chained to typewriters, they're not needed anymore. What happens to them? That's what I want to know.
I mean, I'm assuming they were figurative monkeys. If there is actually a room that was full of monkeys trying to write Shakespeare, then let the monkeys go. We'll sign that campaign. That change.org petition.
I watched, not this week, but last week, I watched a bit of a program from the makers of Tiger King, which is called Chimp Crazy. Just as a little segue, Johnny. And it's about chimpanzees that were being held in a center. I don't know what you'd call it. A chimp world type place out in America. And PETA got on their arse and thought they weren't being kept in a humane way. Fair enough. So the whole thing is about like a Joe Exotic type character, but it's a lady this time, and she chimp crazy. And basically they come to set all of the chimps free and put them in a proper nature reserve where they can run free and whatever, jump around on tires and whatever they do, hang out, pick their noses, but in beautiful surroundings. When they got there, this chimp that was in loads of feature films in the 90s, loads of films, like I think George of the Jungle and all kinds of like mad films, this one famous chimp, it was gone. And they said that it had died mysteriously and they burnt it, and then it kind of spirals out from there. But it was chimp crazy, Johnny. I haven't watched all of it because it gets pretty dark, and I was thinking I can't handle all of this. It's too much. But chimps, man, they're vicious little, incredibly strong, human type creatures that are just full of rage. And you would be, wouldn't you, if you were bottled up in a little cage all your life? So
yeah. I mean, I guess the whole cliche about chimpanzees writing Shakespeare is we don't take into account just how angry they'd be.
So angry.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'd be writing sonnets.
They'd be writing like angry, angsty teen music, like emo. I reckon emo chimps.
Lots of metaphors about being in cages and
100%.
Yeah,
they could have written half of Smashing Pumpkins' back catalogue, I imagine. I love Smashing Pumpkins. Sorry, they're one of my favourite bands, but full of rage and cages in their lyrics. But yeah.
And I imagine if a chimpanzee sung, it'd probably sound a little bit like Mr. Corgan.
Do you think they've got great hair for it as well, haven't they? They could have all kinds of emo hairstyles, chimps.
Yeah,
they could look amazing. I'm not sure.
I was about to say, I think we're onto something, but I don't really know what we're onto, so I shouldn't.
I don't know.
shouldn't say it. Anyway, so we managed to get away from a small, much hyped Cistercian monastery pretty swiftly there. But that's been my last 2 days. But we did on Wednesday have a very epic adventure all the way up to Leeds to finish off the shoot that we've been doing with Kirkstall for Keep Cask Alive, and had a tour of one of the most, I would say, beautiful and indeed important buildings in British brewing history.
It's nuts. I mean, what Steve has got there is beyond amazing. Like the Tetley building, first of all, you look at it, it's so imposing on the landscape. They've knocked everything else down around it, which helps, I guess, / is quite sad, but also full of a bit of optimism, Johnny, because they're building a whole new sort of, I guess, what do they call it? A kind of multi-use zone in the town centre of Leeds, where there's going to be lots of housing and office spaces, and
it's
businesses.
got a bit of a Cold Drops Yard feel to it. Heritage industrial space being turned into big green residential and shoppy.
And Tetley building is going to be the heart of it. What Steve's like custodian right now. So Steve owns Kirkstall, right? Just to give a bit of context.
Yeah.
And he has got, I've seen a lot of Breweriana kind of stuff in my life. I love antiques. I seek out things. But honestly, I think he might actually have the best Breweriana collection I've seen in the UK, including the museum up in Burton. It might be better than that, which is gone now, obviously. But it's I don't know if it's as broad as that, but it's so vast.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's
such
quite
high quality.
Quite focused on mirrors. He's clearly loves mirrors where you can't actually see what's being reflected very well. Mirrors that have been written on. That's his passion.
Do you remember the Mighty Boosh episode where they go to the mirror world and he's going, shine my balls, the mirror man.
Yes.
What his name was.
I mean, I remember that moment, certainly. Yeah, look at my balls, yeah.
Look at my balls, shine my balls. I don't know why that just made me think of that, but Mirror World, there is something very enticing about an advertising mirror. I have a few advertising mirrors myself. Nothing like what Steve's got. Mine are like repros or very small. Like his are vast, back painted, like actual Victorian. Like you take a bit of glass and you painstakingly hand paint on the back of it typography and these amazing vistas of these huge industrial complexes they look like cities, but they were Victorian breweries. It's all hand painted on the back of glass, and we're talking like 5-6 feet wide mirrors that are just all hand painted, and he's got loads of them.
And you've only seen like
loads of them. Yeah,
probably half the collection as well, because obviously he's got all the pubs that Kirkstall own, and they are, they're very much the same vibe of what they've done with the Tetley when they've made their bar. It's all just all over the walls. And in the Kirkstall tap room at the actual brewery, which you'll see in the video when it comes out, like it's not just that, like he's got like Victorian kind of I don't really know the word, but like Victorian like glass shop window fronts and stuff that he's installed into spaces to make it, break out different rooms. It's magical. It really is magical what Steve has done with these spaces, these old pubs and these old buildings. And the Tetley is, the Tetley could have so easily become like a very corporate looking office building. And I think that might be a little bit of what happens above, although it seems like the people that own the building are doing a really nice job of trying to protect it. But for the short time that they've got it, they've only got it, hopefully, supposedly until end of next summer, I think. But they think that delays to the build elsewhere might mean they get it for a bit longer. It's a really incredible space to go have a beer, have some very good food, and to just walk around exploring this, essentially what is a museum. And I can't, if anybody was coming to Leeds and said, where should I go? I'd probably just give them a list. I'd say Whitelocks and then a list of Kirkstall pubs. Just because if you have any interest in the history of British brewing, it's just written on the walls everywhere.
Yeah, man. I like the beer selection was great. The food was great. The kind of little the different breakout rooms were amazing. Like there's a whole like bistro restaurant-y looking bit. There's obviously the bar area that feels a little bit like a Belgium cafe or something to me, with the little round tables, wooden chairs, little flowers on the tables, nice little touches like that.
Yeah, got a brown Belgian cafe vibe, yeah.
Then you've got all the big Chesterfield leather sofas, a little bit more like a sort of gentleman's club at the front. In the bit that when you walk in, it looks like a set of Poirot, because it's all Art Deco, even though it was built in the 1930s, which is a little bit late. It's Art Deco style building, and the lobby it looks like a financial institution. It's amazing. It's like so luxe, wood paneling everywhere. This amazing lift that's like an open iron lift it's got all this beautiful ornate ironwork in geometric Art Deco patterns, and it's all picked out in gold and black, and just
it's interesting,
beautiful.
like the opulence that defines that kind of era when brewing was at its absolute commercial peak in the late 19th century and early 20th, before the World War came and sort of ruined it all. It's incredible, the opulence and the level of showing off that breweries would go to in the spaces that they knew the public would see. And I've seen that, through writing The Meaning of Beer and visiting like Budweiser and Carlsberg as well. Very similar vibes, a little bit more sort of, I guess, Romanesque with Carlsberg, and a little bit more kind of I guess it is kind of Romanesque again, but also a little bit I don't know what would you call that vibe of like all the beautiful red brick universities in America. I'm not quite sure what architecture
it's
that
just
is.
it's like kind of I don't know. I mean, it was high Victorian, wasn't it? The Budweiser stuff. I haven't been there, so I don't know. But it looks like Victorian splendor, like full.
Although I guess they wouldn't call it Victorian splendor. That would have been very uncool to call it in America. 50 years after the independence. But I mean, that nothing has taught me like just how important. I mean, I've written a whole book about how important beer was to humanity, but you only have to walk into the Tetley or into the Carlsberg original building or into the massive complex of Budweiser to understand it instantly. Like, these were some of the biggest companies in the world. And the Tetley building, we looked at that map that had like what it looked like in the 30s, the 60s, and the 90s. And you look at it in the 30s, and the Tetley building, which is a massive building, that you can see. We were looking at our phones trying to find it, and then I looked up and was like, oh, you can literally just see it as we're walking down this road. That's how big it is. But back then, it was the smallest building on the complex, pretty much. Hey Beer Geeks, Johnny here. Just in case I haven't mentioned it enough on the podcast, approached you in the street, or accosted you in your own home, I thought I'd make a quick advert about my new book, The Meaning of Beer. This travel book follows me on a 3-year adventure around the world to discover the surprising ways in which beer has helped build and shape the world. From inspiring the pyramids to funding monasticism, from inventing the fridge to changing modern medicine, and from lubricating the Nazi Party's first meeting to potentially solving climate change, with lots more in between. It's already been called enlightening by the amazing Ollie Smith, and one of the most important books ever written about beer by fellow beer writer Mark Dredge, and it's available for pre-order now in hardback, ebook and audiobook for its release on the 7th of November 2024. Now back to the pod.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was dwarfed, wasn't it, by everything else, but I mean, such an incredible thing that it's still there. Like, I've lost my train of thought, Johnny, because I'm looking at the Anheuser-Busch Brewery on Wikipedia, which is another amazing thing. But these places were they were absolute kind of temples to beer, weren't they? I cannot imagine again a point in history where a brewery's office is gonna look like that. Like it looks like a church or something, or like I say, a bank of absolute massive standing. It's got so much about it.
The brew house at Budweiser, they have like genuine pieces of art on the walls in the brew house. They have wrought ironwork and gold-plated chandeliers in the brew house. This is this commercial, industrial space that is steamy and hot and has high footfall and dusty and it's
Wild.
all there, and it's gold plated, and it's polished to within an inch of its life.
Is it
and
actually
always
gold
would have been.
plated?
Yeah,
Gold-plated?
there's
Wow.
gold plate, yeah,
Holy
and
cow.
proper artwork on the walls. It's just beyond. I think you said it to Steve while you were doing the tour with him on camera that like, most of the offices in breweries now are sort of chipboard
Yeah.
breakouts from warehouses,
Yeah,
and even in the
yeah.
biggest breweries in the UK, it's kind of the case as well. You know, the office space is given so little thought. The brew house is so industrial, and all the money sort of poured into the tap room. But generally, these breweries didn't have tap rooms. That wasn't sort of how it was done. You had a big pub estate instead. So the pubs are grandiose, and there isn't really a tap room on site, or there might be a tap house around the corner.
They were such large concerns that they shaped the city around them, didn't they? So like, certainly Budweiser, certainly Tetley,
Guinness.
like the whole Guinness, all of these places, like
the river.
all of the streets around it and everything, it's all like taken up with brewery infrastructure. So it built these places. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking that in London we've knocked it all down and put houses on top. It's great to see that in Leeds a little bit of it has been salvaged, and in the case of Guinness and Budweiser, which are probably the most pristine sort of Victorian era breweries, late 19th century breweries around, that they're still there.
Yeah,
because otherwise we'd have no idea of this incredible history.
Good work, Americans. I must say, I doff my cap to you for like not knocking the shit out of it in the 80s and just putting up some horrendous tower or whatever. Like they've kept it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that is, the reason why we didn't do so well in the UK is because of essentially the buyouts that happened in the 60s, where all the breweries were bought up by bigger breweries, whereas in America, Budweiser was still family owned right up until the 90s. And I think that's why it has survived so well. If they'd sold 50 years earlier, back when we weren't so into saving our heritage, maybe it would have been torn down or turned into flats or whatever it was. But because they waited a long time to sell out, it's largely largely pristine.
There's like I guess, just to make a little analogy, like landed gentry, where they've got their country estates, and it's almost like a burden, isn't it? Whoever's the oldest boy, they have to look after the country house. Like, they don't own it, they're like custodian of it essentially, and they've got to try and keep it going and do weddings there every year and ask Antiques Roadshow to come along, and then do all other kinds of shit to keep it going. So it's kind of like that. But
luckily there's a giant brew house in the middle of...
Yeah, luckily they're making something that people like to consume.
Yeah.
Whereas these big country houses is just, not that. But
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, you saw that with the guys that bought Thornbridge Hall, and they put a brewery in. It's quite quite a historical thing to do, I guess. Maybe that was part of where the idea came from. That was one way to fund this massive house that they just bought.
I think it's a great shout. Should we crowdfund buying a country manor house and then turning it into a brewery, Johnny?
So many crowdfund, because I also want to crowdfund and get. Well, so I want to crowdfund and get Spartan off of AB InBev because they're ruining it. But also, there was a little hint from Chris Hall and Steve that, like, if Carlsberg ever wanted to sell the Tetley brand, like, Steve would not be able to say no. And I don't know how much Carlsberg would want for it. We tried to ask how much Tetley cask ale is being brewed these days, and I don't think it's wild amounts. But obviously that brand has a lot of what's the word? Sort of intangible value attached to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is obviously why we were filming in the Tetley, because we wanted to tell that story and tell the story of Steve, bringing that building back to life while it awaits its sort of next purpose. So that's what's going to be going to keep Cask alive, next to the beer that they brewed specially with us, which is a historic dry hopped special bitter. Which I thought was tasting absolutely sensational. Just smelled like marmalade.
It was amazing. Amazing. Steve is such a generous and nice and interesting man with a vast knowledge of everything, historic brewing. He's got an incredible eye. Like, he's got an eye of an artist, I would say, or a collector, obviously. And obviously, it's always a pleasure to see Chris Hall as well. He's an absolute ledge.
We had legend of beer writing, one of the people that I most admired when I first got into beer and into beer writing, and he's appeared in a couple of Craft Beer Channel episodes a long time ago. But it was great to see him and to see, his fascination was always as much with beer culture as it was with the beers itself. So he's found this perfect job to be sort of the head of marketing for Kirkstall.
He loves history as well, doesn't he? And like kind of mythical stuff. He goes he's like made swords and ancient like bronze daggers and things. He's cool.
You're out in Crystal's nerdery now.
I love Chris. He's brilliant. He's
and Chris took us to some great bars. So we went to White Locks. So 5 Points, one of the sponsors of Keep Cask Alive 2, and we went to White Locks and filmed the intro. So we're getting to that point. We're starting to really tick off the scenes. So we were in White Locks, one of my favourite pubs in the world, and we were filming the intro to that, and we had a couple of pints, joined by Mike Hampshire, Secretary of the British Guild of Beer Writers. Shout out to Mike. And also he does amazing beer tours of the heritage of Leeds brewing. If you're ever in Leeds and you want to learn more about heritage, Mike Hampshire's your man. But then we went to White Locks, which is like the place that everybody goes when you drink cask ale in Leeds. But then Chris was like, I want to show you the Templars. And I feel like anybody who's from Leeds will start to go, oh yeah, but everyone else won't. So it's a Green King pub.
Oh yeah.
That seems to have a lot of leeway when it comes to what cask they can serve. Like the tie seems to be being ignored.
That's good.
And so they had maybe 10 casks on. Obviously had Green King, but also lots of other stuff, including Three Swords from Kirkstall, which is sort of their blonde Leeds style bitter. And the reason Chris wanted to take me is because he was like, because as far as cellarmanship goes, he was like, this is the best pub I know, even though it's like a Green King pub with like sports playing constantly on the TVs and a very kind of local, older kind of vibe. And honestly, yeah, it was the Three Swords that we had was the best Three Swords I've ever tasted. And obviously I've drunk it at the brewery. It was just, and one of the best sort of pale bitters I've ever had. It was just, I can't remember whether I took a photo of it, but it was sparklingly clear. The glassware was immaculate as well, just the cleanest. It looked like crystal glassware, and the head on it was perfect. When they poured it, I did take a photo of that. They poured it and it looked like a Mliko pour. It was just sparkled to within an inch of its life. And then when it clarified, it was just perfect. It was just a perfect pint. And I was already full of many pints and dinner by then, and had, we'd been on the road since 6:30. I was knackered, and I still demolished 2 pints and then had to run for the train. Just great cask in great condition, can't be beaten.
Agreed, 100%.
So yeah, that was this week for us. We had a lovely time, and we've got. So I'm off to Burton-on-Trent next week to film the story of Isinglass. Oh yes, my friends. And it is going to be about 10 times more interesting than you think it's going to be. And then the week after that, we're off to Shepherd Neame to tell the story of the UK's oldest brewery. So we are deep, mired. We are spangly balls deep in the the heritage of British brewing. I regret that whole phrase. What else have we done this week? So, let's get into the beer news, shall we? What have other people been doing with their week?
Well, there's all sorts going on, Johnny. I found something which is possibly real, but I'm not sure, which is a strange bit of glassware from Japan, which, to be honest, looks like an hourglass. So it's got 2 sort of bulbous ends and then a very, very pinched center, like an hourglass where time, like sands of time go through it. And supposedly it makes you drink slower because it just piddles through this tiny little hole, which it would. But I don't know if it's real, Johnny. I found it on the internet. What do you reckon?
I'm fairly certain that's not a thing.
I'm
looking at it. I'm looking at this. They're claiming it's from Nexter TV, and there's a Japanese guy drinking from it. I mean, there's lots of issues with this. Firstly, why do we need to drink slower?
Yeah.
We need to worry about quantity, not speed. Secondly, that's just going to flatten your beer as it goes through the thin bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're just going to get a mouthful of froth.
Knock out all of the... Yeah, you're going to get froth, aren't you? I can't work out... I think it's AI, but it's getting so good, this AI shit. It's such a low-res video as well that it makes me think... Like, if you look at his Adam's apple, it looks a bit weird.
God, I'm going to feel bad if it is just his Adam's apple.
I mean, I guess he is very svelte, so it could be that pronounced. It just looks odd. The way he's holding it on the stem looks really awkward as well. I don't feel like I can see his thumb either. So maybe it is fake. Like
I just realised there's an arrow on the Instagram post where you can go to look at a second image, and it seems to be Sean Dyke with a load of Japanese writing underneath, and I'm not really sure what that's about.
Who's Sean Dyke? I don't even know who that is.
He's a football manager.
Okay. Well, I guess he's angry that he has to drink slower, right? Is he a drunk?
He strikes me as a man that would be angry if you handed him a pint in in an hourglass. Yeah.
Some other beer news about drinking tiny amounts of beer, Johnny, from our friend of the show, the beer aficionado. We all know and love him. He's very funny, and he's very astute when it comes to beer marketing and trends. And he's telling us in one of his latest reels that tiny beer formats are a big thing that's happening in America now. So, like, when I say
gonna be a big thing.
Yeah, gonna be a big thing. So, like, formats of beer that are going to get smaller. So really, really small cans. Like, you get those small cans of premixed cocktails and stuff, like Negronis. They look like that small, some of these cans of beers. So I don't know. What do you reckon about that? Some quality beer out of tiny cans?
I mean, this is a sort of a craze or a suggestion that comes up quite a bit in the craft beer movement. And we did have a little phase where a couple of breweries had a go at producing particularly big, bold flavoured stouts in tiny little cans. And I was super pro this move, because the reason why I have probably over 100 Imperial Stouts in my collection is because I can never find an excuse to open one, because my wife loves beer, but she doesn't love really strong ABV stuff. When my friends come over, it's not like a bottle share situation. It's very much where are the lagers and pale ales at. So having these little cans would be a dream for me, because I could crack it and not have to pour the rest in the bin when I don't finish 750ml.
Can you like barrel age cans in the same way? Does it break down? I guess if they get dented at all, they might. So
you mean like bottle age but can age?
Yeah, sorry, can age. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, I'd say that the issue is, and we're going back to a debate that happened a long time ago, but so cans are better at keeping oxygen and light away from your beer than bottles, but they are harder to seal without oxygen. So you have to know for sure that the canning line has done a great job before you start aging cans.
Yeah.
But if you know they are, if you know that that's been done really well, then there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't age beer in a can. Although I would also say that with the rules that we put in about aging beer in our video, things like it should be bottle conditioned. It's rare to find can conditioned beers for obvious reasons, because cans are more likely to go boom. So I tend not to age in can unless I really trust the brewery. But I mean, really, the main technical question around these mini cans is not like could you age them or anything. It's more, can the canning lines installed by these breweries that have cost millions of pounds, can they handle these small cans? That's going to be the limitation for this taking off in the UK. And it does seem, from what Doug's saying, it seems to be the big guys that are doing this, not really the small guys, although he has one example from Chicago where he lives.
I'm trying to think what I'd like to drink out of a mini can. I think really big IPAs, like huge IPAs maybe. Like sours, maybe like quick sours. They wouldn't blow up, would they? Because there's nothing alive in them. They're pasteurized, right? So
it depends on the brewery.
Well, if they're pasteurized,
fruited sours are probably the most likely to explode if they haven't been.
Yeah. So it's like a tiny little hand grenade. That's cool. And then like big pastry stouts and stuff. I think big in small is a great idea. And they look really cute. And
they're around in the UK. Like there are like artisan cocktail. I can't remember the brand, but you can get that Negroni in a mini can.
The Negroni one's really, really cool. Yeah. There's been a few breweries that have done the can thing where they've stacked two smaller cans on top of each other, and then like wrapped it as one can, and then you crack them both together and you drink them together. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember who did
Yeah,
that.
but they were doing it with 330s, right?
I know, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, imagine the possibilities if you had these smaller guys. You could stack them up to look like a normal can of beer, smuggle them into
I'd like
places.
that with you got an Imperial Stout, same Imperial Stout. One's been in rum and one's been in bourbon, and you can blend to your own satisfaction.
Yeah. We should do it, and it's like it's a flight in a can, isn't it? Basically, it's just the height of a can, but it's a flight of beers, and they're all wrapped in one wrapper.
There you go. We're into it.
Give me some money. Whoever does that, I want some money because it's my idea, you bastards. So we're going to do tiny little cans stacked on top of each other, like in a cartoon where kids or animals, personified animals, they're in like a trench coat, and there's like 4 of them standing on top of each other, and the eyes are looking out through the trench coat. And one of them's got a hat on, and they're trying to look like a human, but they're tiny little whatevers. That's what it is, but it's in beer form. So it's called trench coating. Maybe we call it trench coating flights. Yeah.
Trench coating feels like
sexual,
a criminal offence. Yeah,
it's definitely wrong.
Well, yeah, it is.
Trench coating.
Let's not call it that.
No.
In other news, we've got Kingfisher Drinks have essentially decided to piss off all of their competitors by doing a survey on the UK's most boring beer.
Oh, yeah.
Take a guess. What do you think came top in their survey?
Is it
UK's
Kingfisher?
most boring beer.
It's not Kingfisher, is it?
No, surprisingly enough, they don't feature in the top 10, having commissioned the survey.
Is it? I don't know. I haven't looked at this. I haven't looked at the top 10. I'm guessing it's probably their competitors who they don't like and they don't want to give any cred to, or it's going to be all craft beers or something.
Well, no, I mean, I think probably the people that were answering this are not the kind of people that are necessarily into craft beer.
Right.
Voted the most boring, which is also the second best selling, was Carling.
Okay, yeah.
And then Foster's comes in second, Stella third, Heineken fourth, San Miguel fifth, Coors sixth. Don't know why Coors is in there, barely sell any. Seventh is Carlsberg, eighth is Amstel, ninth is Birra Moretti, and 10th is Peroni.
I don't think Birra Moretti and Peroni are boring. I think they're very Italian. And I mean, like, so there's no Madri there, is there? So that's exciting, isn't it? Madri's exciting. All the norms are loving the Madri, maybe. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm not surprised to not see Madri in there. I just can't. Like, I look at that list and I can't work out whether there's a system, and I think that's just because all these beers are broadly the same.
Yeah.
How could you pick amongst them? So people have struggled to as well.
Also, it's like, why have they bothered doing a boring list? It's like they're quite boring. They're punching sideways, aren't they?
Just straight into someone's
just going
face.
like, "Bosh, they'll have some of that, lads. We're boring too, but we're gonna say you're more boring because we're in control of the list."
There's a slightly more interesting element to this, right?
Yeah.
Which is, so they also asked what lager they wanted their local to serve. So essentially, what lager do they not see enough that they think is exciting?
Yeah.
And Top, backed by 29.87% of those polled, wanted to see Red Stripe in their local.
Jesus. Red Stripe.
I can assure you, Red Stripe is not a good lager. I mean, it's got a cool kind of retro feel to it, but it's not a good beer.
It ain't a good beer, and that's coming from a man who's drunk a fair amount of Red Stripe in his time. It's not good. Why would you want more of it? I don't know about that. They used to give it away free at art events I went to at a certain period of time.
It was all over that kind of scene, wasn't it?
Yeah. Rolling Rock, Red
It was in
Stripe.
all the music venues for a while as well, wasn't it? There was clearly
that's
some
true.
salesperson had been like, if we go for the art scene, we'll get seen. And I think they were right.
They were right. I mean, I know when I was a cool London art student, I would drink a Red Stripe. I'm trying to think what actual clubs I drank Red Stripe in. I think there was one in Shoreditch called Under the Bridge, which was like an R&B bar that was open late, and I think that had Red Stripe. and there was a Russian bar. I feel like that had Red Stripe, maybe even Jaguar Shoes.
A Russian bar in the UK serving Jamaican
Yeah.
beer. Wow.
I think maybe. I can't remember. There was like
that's the level to which beer has been divorced from its original geography and ingredients.
I might be totally wrong. I can't really remember. But there was like all these bars along Kingsland Road that were kind of cool back in the day, and a lot of them had Red Stripe on the go for sure. Pint of Star as well. I used to drink a lot of that.
Maybe all the people that responded to this survey are former cool London art students, and they're like, bring back the Red Stripe. Yeah. First
wave hipsters from London. Could be.
Right, we've done some macro stuff. Let's get into the crafty bits. So obviously, was it last weekend? Maybe the weekend before was the Great American Beer Festival.
Yeah.
In Denver, Colorado, and obviously they have their annual competition that's held there, so they start announcing essentially what the best beers are in each category, and this obviously gets loads and loads of attention in all kinds of press for me, it's such a wonderful learning experience because loads of breweries that you've never heard of win because that's just the strength and depth that the US has, but also you learn about styles that America seems to recognize that nobody else does. So, like, do you have any idea, this is category 25, Bradley?
Yes.
What an American Belgo-style ale might be?
What? Belgo? So Belgo, all Belgo I know is a Belgian sort of bar chain that was in the UK that was brilliant. So I'm guessing it's a Belgian style what did you say? Belgo style?
I don't even know.
What?
American Belgo-style ale.
So it's some sort of clash up between American and Belgian.
Yeah, but
I've got no idea. That makes no sense. What is it?
If you're I have no idea, mate. But if you're really into American Belgo style ales, you need to go to Launchpad Brewery in Aurora, Colorado, because their beer that's called Silver Medal worthy won gold.
Wow, that's good. So, they did well. They did better than they expected.
They clearly did. Yeah,
that's good. Good on them.
This style that nobody knows what it is. But I mean, so to sort of dig down a little bit, as usual, Jeff from Bivana blog, one of my favorite blogs, has dug into it, into the data to see what we could learn from it. But so California took home the most medals, perhaps expected with such the density of brewing and population. But in particular, IPAs were dominated by California breweries, and in particular breweries in and around LA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would love to go to LA and explore that IPA scene.
Really? So it's got a good. That's interesting.
Well, LA's famous for having a great IPA scene. It's just you kind of think it had shifted to New England, but apparently it hasn't.
Right.
So whether it's hazy or clear or American, so they seem to divide West Coast being like less malty, bitter, not juicy, and then they have American style, which is like old school West Coast IPA. And California and LA sort of mopped up in there. But Oregon had a great time, 38 medals, Colorado 41 medals, and actually New England is not in. No, it's not in the top 10 of medals won, which is interesting.
Really?
It definitely should be. But we need to get over to California and Colorado. But we do have very vague plans that might happen this year, hopefully.
Hopefully. We might be able to get over there with some help from some friends, maybe.
We're thinking about it. And the breweries of the year.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is that... Oh, I don't know whether that's local or... Well, I'm not going to announce that because I don't know whether that's local or national, so I don't want to give the wrong information. But yeah, so I'll put the link in the descriptions box to everybody. If you are headed to America or just interested, it's a big old list. There's, 100 categories? Wait, one sec.
There's loads. I'm having a quick look now. I don't like chili beers. I don't like pumpkin beers.
It's broken down into a lot of different...
Chocolate beer. They're just calling it chocolate beer.
Beer with chocolate in, yeah.
I know, but that's... Okay, sure.
It seems like Ambitious Ales is somewhere we need to visit. So they won Best Juicy best, I know, not West Coast Trademark Brewing won that, but that's in Long Beach, California as well, which is basically LA. I'll get in trouble with that. Near LA. Yeah. LA. LA's where we need to go, buddy.
LA, baby.
That's where it's all happening.
Well, I'm up for it.
Yeah, so I'll put that list so that people can dig into that. The last bit of news is an update on last week's news about Wildcard, in which basically the council, which was the landlord for Wildcard, had reclaimed that building, and sadly it does look like Wildcard have gone down. They've announced it to their to their investors, and there's a story up now by Melissa Cole about it. It seems that basically debts left over from COVID eventually took them down, and they couldn't service their debts, and they finished $500,000 in debt, unable to pay their bills. So really sad. Wildcard was never sort of looked at as like a darling of the industry or a hype brewery, but they were there from almost the very beginning. I think like 2012-ish. They used to have these beautiful bottles with cards, like old-fashioned, like Victorian playing cards that dangled off with the information on. And they were making IPAs very early, and also traditional British styles, and continued to make great beer for all of that time. Went into supermarkets and did pretty well there. Had a great site in Walthamstow. The pub that they own is still running, I believe. The Tavern on the Hill, that's a separate business, but otherwise they're sadly done.
I think it's a real loss to the community and to London.
Yeah, to Walthamstow for sure.
I mean, that was a bit of a beer destination, wasn't it? There, well, certainly a drinking destination at estate. So it makes it a little bit less of an offering, a little bit less diverse, a little bit less of a reason to go out there, which is sad.
Yeah, well, I hope that maybe somebody will come in and either rescue it or start brewing again in that location, like buy it sort of wholesale. That would be the dream for the owners as well, who will be able to service more debt if they can sell on as much as possible. But something's going on there with that council. So that council owns that estate, and we know that Hackney had a run-in with them and had to restructure their debt and did survive that process. But clearly the council is, I think, calling in debts a little unethically here, going to businesses that are clearly unable to pay it and saying you're done, rather than working with them. So a big middle finger up at Walthamstow Council for what they're doing on that estate, because it is a buzzing, interesting and diverse sort of mix of commercial and industrial and artisan production. And what they're doing is really jeopardizing that, and it's going to have lost 20, 30 people their jobs. And, sometimes it's inevitable, if they're not paying the rent and the council has to do something about it. But if they could make it work with Hackney, I'd love to know why they couldn't with Wildcard.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
So, yeah, sad times. But we know that beer goes through cycles. We've seen this throughout history. And in this week's episode, we went all the way back 13,000 years ago to learn lessons.
Sumerians and all sorts.
Solarians?
Sumerians.
Sumerians. Yeah, sorry. When you said Solarians, I thought I was thinking about Solero suddenly. So yeah, Sumerians. And even further, Natufians.
Yeah.
Of 13,000 years ago, that are the earliest record we have of beer being brewed, and with some pretty remarkable technological innovations is probably strong, but processes to do so. So yeah, this week's episode was all about actually the intersection of religion and brewing, and how the two have been hand in hand and funded each other and supported each other and been equally as important to each other throughout history, for reasons which obviously you can watch the video to find out. But I waffled at you essentially. It was just over 40 minutes, the unedited version. So I really talked at you for a long time. In my head, it was about half that. But
no, it was good. It was definitely 40 minutes. It was definitely 40 minutes. No, it was good. It was good. Learned about the kinky Sumerians and the love of oils.
Because there's a comment about that. But I don't think the oil rubs are kinky.
Depends how you're rubbing your oils on, Johnny, isn't it?
Well, I mean, no, but even if it's in a naughty way, I'm not sure that's a kink. That's just sensible lubrication.
Yeah, it just reminds me of, I don't know.
Go on, finish the sentence.
No, I was gonna name somebody I went to uni with, who went to he was he was a guy a Japanese guy, a good friend who I don't see anymore or speak to anymore. But he was king. He was definitely kinky, and he went to something in Japan called Soap World, which was all like oily, soapy, weird times. And he explained it, and yeah, it was funny. I'm not going to name him because he gets angry if a friend talked about him on something once, and he got really angry and then unfriended us all.
Oh wow,
which was sad. Yeah, really sad.
So
Because I
you're
love this
flirting
guy.
with.
I'm flirting with danger, although
yeah.
he's unfriended me about 10 years ago, and I considered him an amazingly good friend, and he went dark on the internet. He's gone totally dark, so I don't know where he's gone. I'd love to call out his name and say I love you if you're still there, you kinky.
But I don't think you can do that
bastard.
now that you've said that he's into what soap games.
I don't know what he's into these days, but this was years back. He was into Soap World. So
Right.
yeah. But,
wow, did not expect us to go down this particular avenue. But I mean, yeah, the Sumerians considered beer one of the things that make us human, as well as oil rubs. If anybody is scratching their head and wondering why we've gone down this road, did you find any non-sexual comments, Bradley?
Well, Martin Jack said, I've occasionally thought Westmail Triple to be a minor miracle. So
nice.
He liked that. You had a really long comment, which are you reading Justine Jacot's comment?
Oh, I wasn't intending to, but
okay.
Do you want me to?
You can, yeah, maybe.
Okay. As an experimental archaeology brewer myself, I can't tell you how much I love seeing this kind of content on the channel. A little nitpicking, the Himpton and Cassie is less a recipe than a... Oh, my God.
I can't say that word.
Dithyram.
Yeah, dithyram.
About the process of brewing. It's actually complicated to elaborate a recipe from the hymn itself. For instance, the mention of honey is thought to be a literary device meant to emphasize the quality of the endeavor rather than the actual ingredient, honey being far too expensive and rare to be used in beer. So, thank you very much for that, Justine. I was aware that the Himpton and Cassie was not sort of a recipe, because a recipe would need like quantities and things like that, but I did not know about honey not being a literal thing. But it actually makes a lot of sense. Because, yeah, honey would have been quite an expensive thing to use, and date syrup would make a lot more sense. Yes. But, yeah, I guess maybe the honey is referring to, like, the wort, the sticky wort, so they thought of it like grain honey or something.
Do you know what I call oil, Johnny?
No, I don't want to know.
Date syrup. It's date syrup. That's what my friend called it anyway. You just called something date. He said date syrup.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Makes more sense than honey. So date syrup,
yeah,
for the
date syrup is
kinky folk.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody gets it, Brad.
Okay, you didn't react, so I was just trying to make it. I was doubling down.
I was just in my head trying to work out whether I should go with it or just try to move on as quickly as possible. But all I've done is draw more attention to the joke.
Yeah, okay. I'll bring it back a little bit then. The Kentish Pilgrim. Really enjoyed the way you help connect beer with history and the story of humans. That's what your book's about, isn't it, Johnny? Plug for the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether you've noticed, Bradley, but there is now a mid-roll advert about my book that goes throughout all our podcasts. So...
On the, I won't. As well as all the videos and everything about the book. Yeah, okay, yeah, cool. I had noticed. Yeah.
We're basically you've sold out without realising.
We've gone into full... No, I realise. I just don't mind. I'm like, cool. If we get to keep doing this, you get to keep doing authoring, and everyone's happy, I'm happy. So it's all good.
Okay, so I'll do another mid-roll advert 2/3 of the way through. I've got a comment from Rusperul. Rusperul?
Yeah.
He said, cute, but beer has nothing on documented 8,000-year existence of wine, which could be considered far more religious, ritualistic, and spiritual. And to Rusperul, I say bullshit. Absolute nonsense. Sit down. You're the one that's cute. Beer is 5,000 years older, was considered food for most of our existence, whereas wine never was, so was of significantly more importance, and was, of course, considered religious, close to God, a gift from God, for the 5,000 years that it existed before anybody made wine on purpose. And really, Rusperul's approach, I suspect, comes from a very Christian European lens of life, where wine did in Christianity, which, is a huge religion, become very spiritual and ritualistic due to the Last Supper and due to
that's only 2,000 years ago, isn't it? It's not 5,000 years ago.
Exactly. And this
Come
is
on,
one of the things I've been trying to get. I thought I got it across in the video. Perhaps Rusbul didn't watch the full video, but in the book it's made incredibly clear that the scale of this thing. We think about beer when we talk about trends in beer, or people say, why doesn't beer taste like beer anymore? These things, they're like 30, 40, 50 or 60 years old, these views we have of the world in the context of 13,000 years of brewing. So what we think we know, we don't. And my book is desperately trying to make that clear to people. It's not saying I have the answers, it's just saying just think about it for a second and you'll see that everything we think and we know about beer has only happened for the last century. Absolute max.
Can we... there's a new series of Ancient Apocalypse started.
Yeah, okay.
Are you into that? Yeah.
No, but I'm aware of it.
Into that. Oh, you should watch it. It's great. I'd love to do... It's got Keanu Reeves on it this time. Graham Hancock is the man. He's cool. He's a cool dude. Younger Dryas and all this sort of shizzle. But he's in the Americas this time, Johnny. So I've only watched maybe half of the first episode and I fell asleep, I was just very tired. It wasn't the program. I just had it on real late. But where was I going with that? You said how many? 13,000 years ago? Is that what you said? Yeah, I think that's... I don't know. I feel like that's Younger Dryas sort of territory, but I'm not sure. Anyway, whatever. I've gone off on one again. Yeah, that's the Great Cataclysm was about 13,000 years ago. No. Yeah. 13 Younger Dryas. Yeah.
So 11,000 BC if they're putting it in those terms.
I don't know about BC. I'm just looking at it now.
Tell me about the Great Cataclysm.
Younger Dryas was a period of Earth's geological history that occurred circa 12,900 years before present, primarily known for the sudden or abrupt cooling in the northern hemisphere, when the North Atlantic Ocean cooled and annual air temperatures decreased by 3 degrees over North America, in Europe, and up to 10 degrees in Greenland. In a few decades, cooling in Greenland was particularly rapid, taking place over just 3 years or less. At the same time, the southern hemisphere experienced warming. The period ended as rapidly as it began, with dramatic warming over 50 years, which transitioned the Earth from the glacial Pleistocene epoch to the current Holocene. The Younger Dryas onset was not fully synchronized. Blah 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 blah. But there's
so basically it got real cold in the northern hemisphere for a couple of years, which maybe why the Natufians went in the cave.
There's an idea that it was a global cataclysm that just basically there may have been cultures that were more advanced. I'm still talking ancient cultures here, whatever. But a lot of stuff got wiped out because it was basically like a rapid period of change that we couldn't adapt to. So the majority of humans on the Earth got wiped out, and it kind of explains why they're starting to find evidence of older activities that shouldn't be there, that were potentially not hunter gatherers and stuff, more organized signs of civilization. From deeper in the fossil records and all this sort of stuff. It's bloody fascinating, mate. It's brilliant. I love it. But yeah, that's around the same time you're saying there's evidence of brewing from, so that's interesting.
Indeed, but obviously quite close to not close to the equator, but quite far south, where perhaps the temperatures wouldn't have destroyed these communities.
You're definitely going to want a beer if the world's destroying itself around you, right? That's going to drive you to some nice porridgey beer. that you've dug out of your little
Well, and
hole.
you'd start making offerings to the gods and all kinds of things.
You would.
Probably would have got you
For
brewing
sure.
as well. So
That might have even started some bloody ritual sort of brewing, eh? Could have started it.
Or indeed a
There you
spike
go.
of deaths that you needed to brew for your funeral
Yes.
processions. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
man.
See, it all fits. This is definitely academic.
It is. Well, it's in the bloody Wikipedia, Younger Dryas. It's a real thing. I'm not making it
No,
up.
sorry, I realise that is. I'm talking about our analysis of it.
Oh, right.
Definitely
Oh,
being
yeah.
academic.
Go check out. He doesn't even need a shout out.
Well, so I
Graham
enjoyed when I
Hancock.
said this is definitely academic. You go, this is bloody Wikipedia, as if it's the bastion of truth.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's corroborated. I just happen to be looking at Wikipedia because I am not a scholar as such.
No,
I'm
nor
a
me.
I'm a scholar of life, Johnny. You know, and of
Not a thing.
Netflix.
Not a thing.
And of Open University as a child. I used to watch Open University when I was I can remember watching it when I was very young, like 8 years old, 10 years old. I had a TV in my room when I was a bit older, and I used to watch it late at night. Open University, loved it. Learned so much about science and nature watching that. It was absolutely amazing. Sparked off my creative mind, probably, I reckon.
Maybe.
Inquisitive mind.
Maybe. For those who are inquisitive about our merchandise, tortured link.
Nice.
I'm trying to wind up the podcast here, as you might be able to tell. We're at an hour.
Yeah.
So, firstly, the beer packs from the festival are finally online. And you can buy several of the delicious collabs, including some of ours, now from the Malt Miller website. So please do go buy those. There's only 24 packs of 6.
God damn. Like hotcakes, man. They're going to sell like hotcakes.
Exactly. You got to get in there quick. Or if they're still in stock in a little bit, we will have more hats. And I realise, well, we didn't realise. Well, maybe Brad realised. He said, buy more hats. And I said, let's not buy more hats. But we should have bought more hats. And now there's more hats.
Yeah.
So if you liked the hats, you can buy hats. Stop saying hats on the merchandise store.
The Love and Beer hats we're talking about from
hats.
Love and Beer Festival, which I didn't even get to keep one because Johnny said we had to sell them all. But now you've told me there is one in existence.
Don't want to leave money on the table. Yeah, I've got one, which I don't know whether I thought we sold them all, so I don't know whether somebody left a hat behind. If you did leave a hat behind, send me a message.
But I want corroborating proof that they bought it. I don't.
Oh yeah, we'll be checking. We'll be asking for receipts.
The margins on these hats are they're as thin as the brim, Johnny. They're as thin as the brim.
As thin as the Chinese stitching.
Merch isn't the one, is it? It's not very good margins on the merch.
No, it's not a profitable.
But we do it because we love you guys, and I love designing stuff, and it's cool, isn't it? Having a bit of merch.
Exactly.
Yeah. You'd think there'd be loads of money in merch. There's not. It's quite cutthroat. And all the prices go up all the time. Like getting T-shirts printed, bloody hell! All the
every
T-shirts.
time we do an order, it's gone up by a couple of quid.
Well, and like we're talking about breweries going out of business. My God, the amount of printing companies that go out of business is terrifying. But anyway, these hats are sick, and I'm definitely getting a green one. The black one is super cool. Probably if you're drinking in an East London bar, maybe you want the black one to look a bit more, I don't know, kind of standoffish, cool. Maybe it goes with your dark trench coat you've got on, if you're trench coating. But yeah, the green one I think is ace, and it goes really nicely with our green Love and Beer T-shirt.
Sure does.
You can look like you're in the beer army with us, the Legion.
Exactly
of beer lovers.
Along with our merchandise, you can also very soon be able to buy tickets to some of the book tours that I'm doing. So all of you have been invited to the official book launch on the 6th of November at the Sutton Arms in Clerkenwell. There are still a couple of spots left. Just a couple. So if you want to come, it's now or never. But I'm also going to be hosting an event on the 14th of November in Hitchin, on the 19th of November in Letchworth. Obviously, the London one. I'm hoping to organise, I think maybe the 21st, possibly, at Sirens Bar in Reading.
Sick.
So it's all slowly come together. And I'm trying to get a Manchester date in the diary as well. So just watch out for announcements in the Discord and socials and stuff if you want to come to a book signing. There'll be a tasting of 4 beers that changed the world. And obviously, I'll be hanging around for beers afterwards. So there should be great events, and I will let you know when they are on sale. That is all we have time for. In fact, that's more than we had time for in an hour. So we will see you on Wednesday for the next in our series all about beers that changed the world. And next week's episode is all about Pilsner Urquell, Budvar, and indeed a little bit about Budweiser. We'll see you then. Love and beer. The Bubble and Friday 5pm podcasts are brought to you by the nerds behind YouTube's craft beer channel. You can watch over 400 mini documentaries at youtube.com/the craft beer channel. And if you love what we do, support us via Patreon and get access to merchandise and our amazing Discord forum, a positive and welcoming space for everyone who loves beer, food and homebrewing. Love and beer.